picture this. It's Halloween night, 1981. The streets of New York City hum with the chaos of costumes and revelry. Jack-o'-lanterns flicker on stoops, and laughter spills from bars as masked figures weave through the neon-lit haze of Manhattan. But in a quiet Chelsea apartment, something sinister is unfolding. 2 lives are about to be extinguished in a brutal, calculated act that'll leave detectives baffled and a city on edge. Tonight, we're diving into a true crime story that feels like it was ripped from the pages of a horror novel. A double murder on All Hallows' Eve, shrouded in mystery. Settle in, dim the lights, and let the shadows tell you a story. But be warned, this one might keep you awake. Before we slip into tonight's tale, I want to take a moment to thank you, our listeners, for being here with us in the dark. If you're loving true crime sleep stories, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps us reach more listeners and keep these haunting tales coming your way. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/KellyBrink. There, you'll get ad-free episodes and exclusive bonus content to feed your true crime curiosity. Now, we're going to hear briefly from our sponsors before we dive into your uninterrupted story for tonight. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to True Crime Sleep Stories. Now, settle in and get comfy, because I'm going to tell you a story. Picture yourself in a darkened room, the glow of a single candle casting shadows on the wall. Outside, the world is alive with the eerie magic of Halloween, but inside, a nightmare is about to unfold. It's October 31st, 1981, in New York City's Chelsea neighborhood. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and cigarette smoke. The streets are a kaleidoscope of costumes, witches, ghosts, and superheroes darting between brownstones and dive bars. At 207 West 22nd Street, a modest apartment building sits quietly, its windows glowing faintly against the night. Inside apartment 3C, 40-year-old Ronald Henry Sisman is spending a quiet evening. The room is cluttered with photography equipment, cameras, tripods, rolls of film, reflecting Ron's trade as a freelance photographer. With him is 20-year-old Elizabeth Platzman, a college student from Long Island. Ronald Sisman was born on August 14, 1941, in Brooklyn, New York. By 1981, at age 40, he had built a career as a freelance photographer, working out of his third-floor apartment at 207 West 22nd Street. The building was a typical Chelsea brownstone, just blocks from the famed Chelsea Hotel in the heart of Manhattan's Bohemian district. Ron's apartment served dual purposes, living space and studio. Visitors described it as cluttered but functional, filled with the tools of his trade: 35mm cameras, lighting kits, developing trays, and stacks of undeveloped film. Elizabeth Platzman, born in 1961, was a 20-year-old student living with her family in Roslyn, Long Island. She was described by friends and family as ambitious and curious, drawn to the excitement of New York City. Police reports noted she had no prior criminal record and came from a stable, middle-class family. Her parents, devastated by her death, later told reporters they had no idea why she was at Sisman's apartment that Halloween night. What is known is that Elizabeth had traveled into Manhattan that evening, arriving at Ron's building sometime before midnight. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the sounds of Halloween celebrations filtered through the streets outside. Costumed revelers laughed and shouted, their voices muffled by the thick brownstone walls. Inside apartment 3C, Ron and Elizabeth were alone. The apartment grew quiet, save for the distant hum of the city that never sleeps. No one knows exactly what they were doing, perhaps talking, perhaps reviewing photos, perhaps simply relaxing after a long day. What is certain is that they were unaware of the danger approaching. No one knows exactly when the killer or killers entered. There is no sign of a forced door, no shattered window. Police later confirmed the front door lock was intact, suggesting the intruder either had a key or was admitted by the victims. It's as if death slipped through the cracks of the night itself. What we do know is this. Sometime between midnight and 4 a.m. on November 1st, 1981, Ronald Sisman and Elizabeth Platzman were murdered with a brutality that shocked even seasoned NYPD detectives. At 7:40 p.m. on November 1st, over 15 hours after the murders, police arrived at 207 West 22nd Street, responding to a neighbor's call about a disturbance. The caller, a resident on the floor below, had noticed an unusual quiet after hearing muffled noises earlier that morning. When officers from the 10th Precinct entered apartment 3C, they found a scene straight out of a horror film. The apartment was a wreck. Furniture was overturned, drawers yanked open from dressers and nightstands, papers strewn across the floor. Clothing was pulled from closets, and personal items were scattered everywhere. The search appeared systematic, as if the killer was looking for something specific. Near the bedroom doorway, Ronald Sisman and Elizabeth Platzman lay crumpled on the floor, their bodies positioned just feet apart. Both had been shot execution style, single bullets fired into the backs of their heads at close range. Blood pooled beneath them, soaking into the worn carpet. Autopsy reports later confirmed the weapon was likely a small-caliber handgun, possibly a revolver. The shots were fired from behind, suggesting the victims were kneeling or lying down when killed. No defensive wounds were noted on either body, indicating the attack was swift and the victims likely subdued before the shootings. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office determined time of death between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., based on body temperature and rigor mortis. Both victims' identification, wallets, driver's licenses, and personal papers had been removed from the scene. Also missing was Ronald Sisman's registered pistol, which he kept in the apartment. Police speculated this gun could have been the murder weapon, stolen to eliminate ballistic evidence. Detectives from Manhattan South Homicide immediately secured the scene, combing every inch of the 800-square-foot apartment. Fingerprint technicians lifted partial prints from doorknobs and overturned glass, but none matched known criminals in the NYPD database. The crime lab processed over 200 items of evidence, including blood-stained carpet samples, bullet fragments, and fibers from the victim's clothing. Yet, no murder weapon was recovered, and no eyewitnesses came forward. Ronald Sisman wasn't a stranger to trouble. Interviews with friends and associates revealed he had been linked to New York's underground drug scene. Several sources told police that Ron supplemented his photography income by dealing small quantities of cocaine to clients in the arts and entertainment world. One connection stood out: actress Melanie Haller, known for her role on the sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter. In September 1981, just weeks before the murders, Haller filed a complaint alleging Sisman had tried to force her to use narcotics during a photo session. Sisman denied the accusation, and when police followed up, Haller declined to press charges. The incident was dropped, but it established Ron's ties to Manhattan's drug underworld. Elizabeth Platzman, by contrast, had no known connections to drugs or crime. Her parents told detectives she was a good student with dreams of working in theater or film. Friends confirmed she occasionally visited Manhattan for auditions and social events, but no one could explain her specific presence at Sisman's apartment. She was curious about the city, one classmate told the New York Times. But this makes no sense. Detectives theorized Elizabeth was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, collateral damage in a hit targeting Ron. The police had little to go on. The Halloween chaos provided perfect cover. Hundreds of costumed revelers filled the streets, their masks and disguises making identification impossible. A neighbor in apartment 2C reported hearing muffled thumps around 2 a.m., followed by silence. "I thought it was just the party noise," Maria G., 52, told reporters. "In New York, you learn to ignore sounds at night." By morning, the thumps had stopped, but no one called 911 until late afternoon. The trail was already cold. As days turned to weeks, the investigation grew stranger. Detectives canvassed the apartment and the surrounding blocks, interviewing hundreds of people. Uniformed officers stopped costumed pedestrians, asking if anyone had seen unusual activity. Nothing. The ransacked apartment suggested robbery as a motive. Perhaps the killer was searching for drugs, cash, or Sisman's pistol. But neighbors reported no signs of heavy drug trafficking from the apartment, and Ron's bank records showed modest savings, not dealer-level wealth. Then came the most chilling lead: a prison informant at Attica Correctional Facility. On November 10th, 1981, Vincent Vinny DiNapoli, serving time for armed robbery, contacted authorities. Vinny claimed he'd spoken to inmate David Berkowitz, infamous as the Son of Sam, convicted in 1977 for 6 murders and 7 attempted murders across New York City. According to Vinny, Berkowitz bragged during a yard conversation, "They're going to kill a photographer in Manhattan on Halloween. He has photos that could expose us." Berkowitz allegedly described the victim as a freelance photographer with a studio apartment near the Chelsea Hotel, and mentioned a cult ordering the hit to retrieve incriminating evidence. Detectives were skeptical but couldn't ignore the specifics. Berkowitz, now 28 and serving 365 years at Attica, had a history of spinning tales. During his 1977 trial, he claimed his shootings were directed by a satanic cult called the Children, communicating through his neighbor's barking dog. Prosecutors dismissed it as delusion. Psychiatrists diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia, yet the timing was uncanny. Vinny's tip came just 9 days after the murders, matching Berkowitz's prediction exactly. On December 15, 1981, NYPD detectives interviewed Berkowitz in a secure Attica visiting room. Under questioning, he denied ordering the hit, but hinted at knowledge. "I know people who might have wanted him dead. He had photos, maybe of rituals, maybe something else. Pressed for details, Berkowitz grew vague, mentioning a box of films hidden in Sisman's apartment. No such box was found during the search. The cult angle fizzled. Prosecutors concluded Berkowitz was seeking attention. Still, the interview planted seeds of doubt. Had Son of Sam acted alone, or was something darker at play? Meanwhile, the families grappled with unimaginable loss. Ronald Sisman's mother, Rose, 68, a widow from Brooklyn, spoke to reporters outside the precinct. "My Ronnie was a good boy, talented with a camera," she said, tears streaming. "Who would do this to him?" Elizabeth's parents, Dr. and Mrs. Platzman, issued a statement through police. "Our daughter was full of life. We can't understand why she was there or why this happened." Elizabeth's body was returned to Roslyn for burial, Ronald's to Brooklyn. The media frenzy was immediate. The New York Post blared "Halloween Execution" on November 2nd, 1981. The New York Times ran front-page stories: "Student, 20, and photographer slain in Chelsea." Tabloids speculated wildly: drug debts, jilted lovers, even organized crime. One Daily News headline screamed, "Son of Sam cult claims new victims." The coverage thrust the case into the national spotlight, but leads dried up fast. By December, detectives chased dead ends. A loan shark, Ron, owed $5,000. A rival photographer who'd argued over a job. A disgruntled client. Interviews with 200 witnesses yielded nothing solid. The investigation dragged into 1982. Detectives subpoenaed Ron's phone records, dozens of calls to known dealers in Midtown. They traced Elizabeth's last movements. A Long Island Railroad ticket purchased at 6:15 p.m. on October 31st time-stamped arrival at Penn Station. Friends recalled her mentioning a photo thing in Chelsea, but details were vague. Forensic teams re-examined the bullet fragments. No matches to unsolved cases. The missing IDs puzzled investigators. Why take driver's licenses? Serial killers sometimes collect trophies, but no pattern emerged. In 1987, journalist Maury Terry published The Ultimate Evil, a 560-page investigation linking Berkowitz to a Yonkers-based cult called the Process Church. Terry argued Sisman filmed snuff rituals for the group, and the Halloween hit silenced him. He cited Vinny's tip, Berkowitz's interview, and alleged cult symbols at the scene, unseen by police. Critics called it sensational. The NYPD dismissed it as conjecture. Yet the book sold 100,000 copies, reigniting public interest. Documentaries followed. Netflix's The Sons of Sam in 2021 revisited Terry's claims, interviewing surviving detectives who admitted something didn't add up. By the 1990s, the case was a ghost story. Lead detective Joe Coffey retired in 1995, taking files with him. Elizabeth's memorial service at a Roslyn synagogue drew 300 mourners. Friends planted a tree in her honor at a local park. Ron's mother passed in 1993, never seeing justice. The apartment at 207 West 22nd Street was renovated and re-rented by 1985. New tenants whispered of bad vibes, cold spots, flickering lights, but police chalked it up to urban legend. Today, the case remains open. File number 81-18947 in the NYPD's Cold Case Unit. Advances in DNA have solved 50 Manhattan murders since 2000, but this one yields nothing. The bullet fragments degraded. Carpet fibers vanished in storage. In 2023, genealogists traced 15 potential relatives for familial DNA. No hits. The killer, or killers, slipped into Halloween night and vanished. Was it a drug hit settling a $5,000 debt? A cult silencing a witness? Or a random burglary gone wrong? We may never know. As you drift toward sleep, imagine that Chelsea Street again. The jack-o'-lanterns have burned out, the costumes packed away, but the question lingers. Who entered apartment 3C, and what were they searching for? The truth is out there, buried in the shadows of a long-ago Halloween. The murders of Ronald Sisman and Elizabeth Platzman remain one of New York's most haunting unsolved cases. The son of Sam connection, while tantalizing, is unproven, a mix of prison gossip and coincidence. The drug debt theory fits Ron's lifestyle, but lacks hard evidence. What's certain is the tragedy. 2 lives cut short on a night meant for celebration, families left with questions, and a city reminded that real monsters walk among us. For those who love a mystery, this case is a haunting one to ponder. If you're curious, dig into the New York Times archives from November 1981 or Maury Terry's The Ultimate Evil for deeper theories. Maybe one day, a forgotten box of photos or a DNA match will surface. Until then, it's a story that lingers, like the chill of a late October night. True Crime Sleep Stories is hosted and created by Kelly Brink, produced with the support of our dedicated team. Subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform to help us keep telling these haunting tales. Visit patreon.com/kellybrink for exclusive content and to join our community. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet you in the shadows next time. Until then, stay safe out there and lock your doors. Good night.